how important it is to have the complex carbohydrates, but also protein. Protein is going to be something that's very important to pair with these carbohydrates. The proteins, when we do pair it with carbohydrates, it's going to help to stabilize our blood sugars and not allow it to spike up so quickly, which is what ends up causing us to be more hungry. So it will keep it lower, more stabilized for longer. So it ends up keeping us fuller for longer. A cheese stick and a fruit, and that's like always my go-to snack together. It's a great pairing. A cheese stick is perfect because it's the perfect amount of protein. It's the perfect serving size that's already packaged up. So I really love cheese sticks, and I love pairing it with fruit. It keeps us fuller for longer. It helps stabilize our blood sugars, and we're getting proteins, complex carbohydrates, and it's just really such a perfect snack.
We are going to make a cauliflower parmesan. I've done this sauce a couple of times, but I think it's so important. There's so many sugars in sauces in the store ones in the jar. So this is quick, simple, delicious, and it doesn't take long at all. And then we're going to make it into a parmesan. I'm going to show you how that's done now. My garlic's all chopped ready. You know, I always meal prep. So a couple of things of garlic there. And some onions. Get that going. And then I have some fresh parsley. Love me some fresh parsley. Really nice in sauce. I could have waited a little bit more for the onions to get translucent, but that's okay. I'm going to put a little bit of salt and pepper. A little bit of pepper in there. And then I'm going to open up the can. It's really important to wipe your can, but they keep things in the basement. I recommend you always washing the top of your cans, so you never know what's been on them. Why don't we go in? I've got some fresh tomatoes here. Right, so you see that's going nicely. I'm going to add the sauce. Oh, you smell the garlic and the onions, yum. So that's my sauce now. But I'm just going to shift it out the way. But I leave it on low here for a minute, and then I'm going to go over to the next thing. Right, my next thing is ready cauliflower. It's just a dusting of cauliflower for the parmesan, and then I'm going to stick it in the oven. And it usually, till it's golden brown or tender to the fork, I'm just going to put a little bit of olive oil spray. This keeps it vegan as well. And then that's just going to go in the oven, like for probably about 20 minutes. All right. So I'll just leave that to the side. So this is when it's cooked. So I've made some sauce before, early this morning. And obviously the other piece will go there. I'm just going to put the sauce over the top. And we're going to sprinkle some cheese. And then a little bit of cream cheese. So I'm just going to put a little bit of parsley on top of this. And obviously when the other one comes out, I'm going to stick it in the oven, but I saved one. So I'm going to push that to the side. Actually, Parmesan will take about maybe 15-20 minutes in the oven, just everything will come together and melt. So now I've made some string beans. Now these I blanched earlier. I put a lid over and really let them steam. And then I put them in an ice bath. An ice bath is when you're steaming a vegetable and then you put it back into really ice cold water with ice cubes so it keeps its color.
It stops the cooking.
Exactly.
It like really stops it, so it keeps the color.
So I'm just going to saute these up. I used this pan before for the same thing. So I'm going to heat up that. I'm going to put a little bit of olive oil. A tiny touch, and I'm going to put my shallots.
They're kind of like onions, but a little bit less
sweeter. Yeah,
they're a little bit milder. They're a little less sharp.
Yeah.
So you can see them. I'm just heating them up a little bit. So we're going to get them to like a little translucent, and then we're going to just stick our string beans in. I'm going to put a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. Give it a nice little spice. So I'm going to walk over and show you the finished product. Okay, so I have my cauliflower parmesan.
So
Water
nice.
of the week is, I did a sparkling water because I like a sparkling water, lemon and cucumber and basil.
So today with my recipe, I am making 2 salad dressings, and they're both using a healthy fat that also has protein in it. So these are really great dressings that have a little bit more nutrients to them besides the typical vinaigrette type of dressing. But what are things that we can do to boost it? So again, it has the healthy fats and it has these proteins that are going to just all help stabilize our blood sugars a little bit more. One of them a peanut butter dressing and the other one with tahini. I know I've spoken a bit about tahini. I really love it. It's basically ground sesame seed and it has healthy fats. So there's really no bad fats in there. And there's 6 grams of protein in 2 tablespoons. And we end up usually using more than that. And I love that because we're almost at a complete protein there, which is so great. So we're really making a dressing and we're adding protein to it. So I always say add protein to your salads, but this is even boosting that a little bit more. So I'm going to first do the tahini. It's a zesty tahini dressing. So I have in here, I have a 1/4 cup of tahini. And now I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar. And I'm just going to eyeball this. You can do a little bit less if you want, but I used a 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar. I absolutely love the combination of apple cider vinegar and tahini. It just goes so nicely. And then we're going to use, it says a 1/4 cup. I'm using a little bit less. I'm going to say it's probably a tiny bit less than that of fresh lemon juice, because I feel like the apple cider vinegar and lemon juice, they don't need to be equal in there. I think they're both acidic and we don't need that much acid in there. And then we're going to do about a 1/4 cup of soy sauce. So I put in my soy sauce. So that's a 1/4 cup of soy sauce. You can use tamari, you can use soy sauce, you can use coconut aminos if you're looking to use something with a little bit less sodium. Coconut aminos are a great substitution. This recipe does call for nutritional yeast. I happen to not love it so much in dressings. I like it as like on a sprinkle of popcorn. I don't love the taste of it in dressings, especially when I do add cheese to my salad, which I have. And then the last thing is some minced garlic. So I cheat and I like to buy the ready-made minced garlic. It's really inexpensive and I use minced garlic pretty much all the time. So I just like to have it readily available. A little bit of that, about like a teaspoon of that into the dressing. And then I'm going to mix that up together and it smells like so delicious. So that is the first dressing. I'm going to show it to you. It's a really nice color. I'm going to add a tiny bit of soy sauce because I just eyeballed that and want to make sure that I actually have it good. And the tahini and the soy sauce are really like what make this, come together, but it is so delicious. It smells so good. And I'll show you how I put that on my salad later and what I do for my salad. And then my next recipe is a peanut butter dressing. So I also happen to love using a peanut butter dressing because I just love using proteins. Like I said, I love making everything more nutrient dense as possible. And I just love peanut butter. I'm going to be very honest. I use regular Skippy peanut butter. I'm not a natural peanut butter person. I happen to not like it. Yes, there is a bit more sugar in it, but you're still getting that full protein. To me, it's worth it. I really try to stick to serving sizes of peanut butter, and you're really getting the same serving sizes in a natural peanut butter and a Skippy or Jif peanut butter. So I'm going to be really honest with all you out there. If you don't like it or it's too expensive for you, don't say, oh, well, I'm not going to use peanut butter then, because it is fine. You're still getting a good source of fats and a good source of protein. So definitely don't skip out on peanut butter if you don't like natural or don't want to spend the money on a natural peanut butter. That's okay. So I have a 1/4 cup of peanut butter. We're going to do 1 clove of garlic. So we'll measure that like that. That's probably about 1 clove of garlic. It calls for fresh ginger, this dressing. I actually do not like ginger. I do use a little bit of ground ginger because I think it's important for the flavor profile of this dressing. You can use fresh, but another important lesson is that sometimes if we don't have fresh or fresh is more expensive, it's always okay to use the ground version of it. Sometimes we have to use a little bit less of the ground version because it's a little bit more pungent and stronger. So like this calls for 2 teaspoons. I probably used about a teaspoon or even half of a teaspoon there. Our next thing we're going to use is some rice vinegar. So we're going to use 2 tablespoons of rice vinegar, which is also just a really good acid. I love to use. We use 2 tablespoons of that. And then we're going to do 2 tablespoons again of soy sauce. Again, you can use tamari, you can use coconut aminos, whatever you want, whatever you have. It doesn't really matter. And then 2 tablespoons of this as well. And then we're going to do 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. I actually use a little bit less because I find it's a bit sweet with 2. And also I just like to lower sugar whenever and wherever I can. So I'm gonna use one and then like a half of another. And then the last thing, which you don't really need to do, but again, I happen to like a little bit of a kick, is a tiny bit of cayenne pepper. So if you like spicy, I definitely recommend adding this. It's a really great spice in there, but a little goes a long way. So don't add too much. A little bit of cayenne. And then what I usually like to do then is I mix it up, see how it looks. I'm gonna show you guys how this mixes. And then you decide if you need any water to kind of thin it out a little bit, because for dressings, we don't want to, for a marinade, if you are gonna use this for a marinade, which by the way, you totally can, because it is a delicious marinade for like a fish or anything of that sort. But I do recommend adding some water for a dressing, because it is better to have it a little bit thinner, maybe a little bit of water, just to help it mix nicely. So put a little bit of water, and notice how none of these dressings have oil, because it's using the tahini, it's using the peanut butter, and those have like those natural oils in it. So we don't need any like olive oil or any like real oil base. We're using those other healthy fats as bases, which I love. And this smells also so delicious. It's definitely like peanut buttery. So you want to pair it with the appropriate type of salad. I would definitely do like more of like a bok choy or more of like an Asian based salad. You can use this on like soba noodles if you want to make like a soba salad. These are both so delicious. So now I have my lunch here, and I have just a really basic salad. I have some lettuce, I have cucumbers. I love to use some of these like banana peppers, and then I have some actually burrata in there that was going to go bad. So I decided to use that as my cheese and my protein. And I'm just going to use a little bit of dressing. I don't recommend ever over dressing salads. I rather underdress and then add when we need. You can add, but you can't subtract. And that is really it. It's super simple, really easy, healthy.
I've noticed with tahini and peanut butter is when you're stirring them up, it's like they'll be separated for a while, and then like suddenly they will emulsify.
Yes, and it
then
just
when
comes together.